they were in a different league. So, I went to a slam metal festival this weekend. That's not a sentence I ever thought I'd be able to say out loud, but I went to Offal Fest this weekend, Offal Festival, and it was fantastic. I had a brilliant time. The festival took place at Rebellion, which is in Manchester city centre. It's about 3 miles from where I live, so it was nice not having to camp in a field or to book a hotel or to travel a significant amount to see some live music. And it felt strange waking up in my own bed every morning fresh, but I'll take that. It was a pretty early start on Friday, 5 p.m. doors and the first band at 5:15. But whilst I was in the queue, I got talking to people and I found out that those people who come from Ireland, from the Isle of Wight, from the south of England, Portugal. I even spoke to a gentleman who flew in from Georgia just for this festival. So that shows the reach that the little festival has, and it's only going to get bigger and better. Exhumation were one of my highlights of the Friday, and they were fantastic. They bring an old school death metal style, like that of Suffocation, that real brutal slamming style, and it got some good pits going, and I just loved watching it. Saturday was by far the busiest day, and it started at 1 o'clock, and it was a long 12 hours of music almost. The first band started at 1:30, and the venue was already packed out. Early on Saturday, it featured bands who were made up of prominent members of the local scene, the local slam scene in Manchester. Bands like Disgracing, who were doing their very first gig, and it felt more like a stand-up comedy act at times. I was laughing with them and not at them, trust me. They were just the banter between themselves and the band and the crowd. It was just fantastic. I loved it. Q Trinity were maybe my favourite band of that day. They were incredible. They were very similar to Origin in the sense that they combined that speed, that technicality with that brutal precision and just full force intensity. I realise I'm just throwing buzzwords at you now, but you had to be there honestly. And if the Italian brutal death metal band come to your local city or town, make sure you see them. Now, I've seen some absolute carnage at Rebellion. I've seen the likes of Ingested, Diocide, and Nile lay waste to the venue, but I don't think I've ever seen anything like the headliners, like Skinless. There was stage diving, there was circle pits, there was nowhere was safe in that venue. And I believe this was the first show in the UK for 18 years, and I could see people wearing their merch all day Friday, Saturday, so it was pretty clear who everybody had come for. And I feel honoured that I was part of that. Ancient Rivalry were one of my highlights of the Sunday, and they were second on, and I wished I had a bigger crowd, to be honest. They stood out like a sore thumb, but for all the right reasons. Where there was so much slam and brutal death metal, they brought a kind of old school death thrash crossover style, like that of Bolt Thrower. And I just loved the riffs, the solos, and song structures were a lot more complex than maybe some of the other bands. And yeah, I'm definitely going to check them out more. And I hope, again, this channel can bring attention to bands like this. BTK were one of the few bands I actually knew before going into the festival, and I was really looking forward to them. They were one of my must-see acts, and I just loved their fast-paced grind style, a bit like Rotten Sound, a bit like Napalm Death, and they always put on an entertaining show with the theatrics, the costumes. I feel sorry for that teddy bear that had to be disassembled, should we call it. The highlight of the festival was Sunday's co-headliners, Wormed. They were in a different league of their own, if you ask me. It's been a while since I've seen any band that's so intense yet so technical, and I need to see them again. I was right at the front for this, and I became so immersed in the performance later on that I've not experienced that for a very long time. Although being right at the front came with its own risks. I was right at the barrier. Well, there was no barrier, I was right at the front. And a stage diver unfortunately kicked my glasses off my head. I mean, he didn't do it on purpose, but I took the risk. You play with fire, you get burnt. But I found my glasses eventually, so the risk was worth it, I think. I definitely want to see Wormed again. I can't remember if I've already mentioned that, but hopefully I'll get my wish again in the future. Offal Fest is absolutely fantastic, and it far exceeded any of my expectations, and it's opened my eyes really to the world of slam metal, brutal death metal, and it made me think perhaps I need to be more open-minded in the future. It's pretty clear that they've built something very special and there's a solid community behind this music, and this is why, again, I've created this video. I want to sell it, I want to talk about it, and want to give credit where credit's due. If it's going to be like this next year, I think I'll find myself in attendance.